Hi everyone, it's Jimmy here at Stage Door Medium. Welcome back to another week. We have a really special guest today. Um, I could talk to them for like all day. We've been talking for a while. And I'm like, oh, we got to talk about this now. We have to talk about this and this and this. Um, Please help me in welcoming the incredible Lindsay Heather Pearce to our show today. Hi, Lindsay.
Hello.
How are you?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm good.
Good.
I think it changes day to day.
It's
Who
it's like a
knows?
question now. When I answer to, I'm like, good. Like you can always hear that like question
Yeah,
mark.
it's like the $100 like the hot topic question of
It
like
changes like
how
within the minute.
how mentally healthy do you feel today? Who knows?
That's a good way of wording it.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming onto our our show today. If
Oh
you're
my
if you're
God,
watching
thanks
at
for having
home
me.
or listening, Lindsay is just incredible. Her energy is I don't even know how to describe it. I it's a rarity that you meet somebody whose energy feels that otherworldly, but is still rooted here in the physical, and that's really her in a nutshell. And so,
Oh my
what you
God.
might best recognize, her for, her turn in Glee. You were in later seasons, correct?
I was in season 3.
Season three.
Yeah.
Why did I think it was later than that? I was way off.
Oh
I thought
God.
it was like
I don't
when they
know.
were going to college years. Why did I always think you were one of the new groups coming in?
I think that's season 3. I think was when a lot of them were seniors,
Okay.
because my character was specifically introduced around a scene where they were at like a college mixer that they were applying for. So maybe
Oh
that's it.
yes. Yeah, you
Yeah,
played Harmony on the show,
I did.
and you did that
Plucky
fabulous
little gal.
any, anything goes the Beaumont
Oh my
version,
god.
and then
Yeah.
gosh, you just made your Broadway debut in Wicked as Elphaba, and then you were there for like 3 weeks, and the
Yeah.
pandemic was like psych, and
Yeah.
bye bye.
See you in a few years. Yeah.
See you on the other side. So, did you always know growing up that like you had the bug and that this is what you wanted to do?
Um, I think so. I think it took root in me before there was even a space to express it, if that makes sense. Like the joke in my family was I was singing before I was talking, and there have been many stories, too many, about me coming home from school and having memorized an entire book of lit or something, like
Yeah.
truly coming home from preschool and knowing, all these little preschool songs in English and in Spanish, and like tons of I was such a mimic.
Yeah.
I was a parrot.
Same here.
And yeah, and I just had that brain that just wanted to sponge everything up all the time. And then there was a moment where we were out of state. I think we were in Montana or something like that. We were living in Oregon at the time. We were in Portland. We'd moved there so my dad could go to college, and I think I was maybe five-ish age, and was playing in some tall grass, singing "Just Can't Wait to Be King" from The Lion King. Oh, the '90s! What a
The
time to be alive!
best.
And God, what an incredible thing! My mom, and when you're doing sports, at least at this in the '90s, you kind of caravanned. Everybody had like a trailer that they hooked to their car, and everybody drove out of state to go to championships and such. And all my brothers were playing soccer, and I was like playing in the tall grass, pretending to be Simba. And this man went around and knocked on their doors, everybody's doors. And they knocked on my parents' door, and my mom answered, and she was like, "What did she do? Who did she bite? What has she done?" Because I was a troublemaker, and I was just so energetic. I had too much life to live inside of me. And the man was he was either the head of the music department or was a music voice professor
Sure.
at Portland State or Portland University. And he was like, "She's got perfect pitch. She's really singing, like she's like singing. She's not just messing
Yeah.
around. Like she's doing all the voices. She's playing Nala and Zazu, and she's doing like all the little musicality things." And my mom was like, "Oh, okay, I don't know what that means." And she told my dad, and when we moved back to California, I was put into like a little kids theater thing, and that's when
Took
it
off.
took off. So it was a lot more of other people noticing before, and I feel like that's very common, but other people noticed before I did because my family wasn't theatrical at all. They were all athletes, and I wanted to be like my brothers, so I tried to play sports.
Same here.
I tried and tried and tried and tried, and turns out it's jazz hands for me. That's all. That's the best sport I know how to play.
Yep.
So yeah, that was. I think because other people noticed and allowed me to discover it myself, um, I'm gonna say yes. The longest answer I could have given you is yeah. I
No,
think
that's
I've always
great.
known, but I don't think it solidified until I was in my teens. Yeah,
I tried to play sports too, and I would always be out in the outfield, and they
me
would put
too.
me always out there, and I would try to like talk to the bees because I remember Pocahontas talked to Flit, and so I was like,
Yes.
maybe I have this ability to talk to animals, and then I remember I was just doing accents and stuff like that, and like totally
Mhm.
in my own world, and then the coach would
Yes.
scream, and um, I was just like, is it intermission yet? Like using theatrical terms.
100%.
And then if we won, I mean, I was like, oh, is the team mom gonna buy us food? So, um,
Who's
and
handing out the orange slices?
think, oh no, this was like
What's going
pizza
on? Where are the
because
Capri Suns?
the Capri
Yeah.
Suns. Also, speaking of the '90s, did you have the Lion King Nintendo game or the Sega game?
Oh, did I? I
What a
beat
hard
it.
level
I
that
beat
was,
it.
though. For
I
I
beat it before my brothers did, and I remember dying so many times. This is a deep dive, but I remember dying so many times in the levels where you have to jump up and get the bugs and not get the poisonous bugs
yes,
over and over. Ugh,
and then you would hear
so
that
hard.
da 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 da, and then he would go, "The
Yep.
king has returned," and you're like, "I'm going to
Ugh.
continue." The hardest level was, I just can't wait to be king. At times, figuring out which thing you would have to hop on to get you to
The
the
monkey
next.
swing, and then the jumping on the giraffe heads, and then
Yes,
they'd lift back up, and you tumble into the
yeah,
water and drown. It was very macabre.
it was very, and it's
But I do,
funny
and I remember the game getting easier when you become grown up Simba. And I was like, why is it so easy now?
unless they're trying to
Um,
parallel like the struggles of like a child to versus when you're an adult. Maybe it's a little
totally.
easier, but I think it's worse as, as an adult.
I
All the
loved I
struggles.
loved that Sega game. I loved it so much, and I loved hearing the very odd, slightly wonky score of the Lion King
Yes.
through like a digital
Like a 16-bit or
medium.
8-bit, whatever it
Oh,
was.
it was like I'll never forget. And then when you see I almost said Aslan.
As
Wrong brand. That's Lion King, and that's not Lion King. That's Lion the Witch in the Wardrobe. But seeing Mufasa in the sky coming out, being like, "Remember who you are," and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm doing it." but but there you go. I was always an escapist.
Same here.
I was an absolute artistic escape artist.
I
Like
still play video games sometimes to make my
me
mind
too.
blank out before a reading
Yeah.
because if I'm too wrapped up
Hmm.
in my day and I'm like, oh, this really stressed me out, I will literally just play Miss Pac-Man or something because it's
Yeah.
mindless and my brain goes blank. So,
Yeah.
um,
100%.
I know we spoke about this before we started filming, but I find it so fascinating that you spoke about having perfect pitch. Um, you were born deaf.
I think it was actually relative
Relative?
pitch, but like perfect pitch was such a term, and I'll tell you right
It
now,
is.
I don't have perfect pitch. I think perfect pitch is something that's very nuanced and it's very specific, and it's one of those like sing a C and then you sing a C and then you check it and then you
Hmm.
have it. I don't think I have that, or at least I don't have the practice of it. I don't believe I have perfect pitch, but I do know that I have relative pitch. I had been born deaf or extremely hard of hearing, which is uh, unbelievable to think about.
Can you
Um,
talk about that a little? I know you said you don't know too much, but it's just fascinating
yeah,
to me.
I turned 30 this year, and now it feels like the strangest like side sweeping bit of lore. Like when I bring it up or someone else my mom or my dad bring it up, it's always like, "What?" And I remember I remember specifically being told stories about, um, I wouldn't turn my head. If loud noises happened, I wouldn't jump, I wouldn't flinch. Um, I wasn't responding to my name. I wasn't responding to anything. And the way in which I would laugh, from what I remember, the way in which I would like laugh or vocalize was a little bit, it was as if I didn't have quite an oral skill.
Sure.
I had oral skills, but not, which sounds
Not the
incorrect.
AURAL.
Yeah, aural.
Hmm.
AUR. And yeah, and I remember being told that I was like newborn. So, who knows? Things could have been developing. I could have been late, which would explain quite a bit about my noggin. But I remember being told that I had gone to several doctors and getting second opinions and specialists and ear tests and all kinds of stuff, and it had seemed like there was going to have to be uh a change in lifestyle. And then once I'd reached, I think about six-ish. Oh, that was hard. 6-ish months. That's a tongue twister. That's a good vocal warm
Success.
up. I My dad said that he prayed over me, and that was when everything changed, that I was crying normally, like my vote, or not normally but typically, because I don't think there's anything wrong with being deaf or blind
No,
or anything like that. I don't think there's what is normal. But yeah, to like oral, typically I was crying, and yeah, it and I don't remember any of it, but I'm sure it felt traumatic in the moment. So
sure.
who knows? I can't imagine having this like tiny little being being like, please, like speaking words of healing over it. And I don't really know how true all of that is, but I do know that um ever since I've always had ear issues and hearing issues, and I am in no way deaf at all. But yeah, I think that there was definitely a time when hearing was not on my roster. It
Sure.
wasn't a skill that I had, or a sense that I had, and um, it's wild to think if things had not shifted in my development. What would I in my whole world is centered around intake and output. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's very strange. But I'm very grateful for it. I'm so grateful for it.
I had hearing problems growing up, and I
Yeah,
was a late talker, and my mom was very concerned. And I remember when I started my L's and my R's, I had a hard time pronouncing, so they took me to um,
totally.
this doctor, a hearing doctor in the Falls, and I remember being in the booth, the glass booth, and my sister and my mom are in the corner with the doctor, and I remember
I can feel it in my
like
body.
yes, and I remember, okay, so the doctor is here, like I'm gonna be the doctor for a minute, and he's like, I'm just going to, give you these words, and you're going to repeat them after me. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is, and he's like, it's a game. And I was like, oh, I'm excited. So he's like, cat, and I'm like, ice cream cone, and the doctor's like, great. And then I see my
Good
sister and my
job.
mom looking at each other like the dance moms when they're watching it upstairs, and they're like, and I'm like, oh, clearly I'm not saying the words right. So they put tubes in my ears, and then I remember going in kindergarten.
Totally.
I told the kindergarten teacher, I was like, sorry, but you're not allowed to yell at me. I was like, I have tubes in my ears and they could be delicate. So they eventually fell out. Oh, I was very like, and I went back,
I
and
love it.
turns out there was a bone in my ear. Basically how it worked was the sound was coming in, hitting the bone and bouncing out. So my left
Wow.
ear was working double for my right. So even today, there's still moments where I'm like, I was telling you, I'm like, what? What? And there's like no
Yeah,
noise, but I can hear like a pin drop from like down the street.
totally.
And it's crazy because as a medium, one of my strongest abilities is clairaudient, which means clear hearing. And
Hmm.
if you're listening at home, I always like to clarify too. There's two types. There's subjective clairaudience, and then there's objective. Subjective is what I have, and it's what probably like 98% of mediums hear, where we do not hear like you and I hear right now. It's
Mm.
I can hear somebody's tone of voice. Like I can hear Whoopi Goldberg's voice, and you can hear it, or I
Yeah,
could say James Earl Jones, you hear it.
I can hear.
So
Yeah,
it's, and so many times when I hear voice from spirit, it might not be their voice, but they're using what I know from pop culture. So if I hear Blanche Devereaux, I'm like, oh, they have like a strange accent that's Southern. And they're like, oh, yeah. So it's definitely not how people think it really works, where I can hear them like we hear each other. That's a
right.
rarity. Could we talk about Glee? Like, how did that come about for you, and what was that experience like? Because I watch it, and for some odd reason, I get stressed watching it. Like, I feel like it must have been high stakes. Like, my palms
Yeah,
are dripping watching Glee. I'm like, I'm nervous, and I don't
yeah.
know why. But could you talk about
I
that?
do. I do a little bit. What was it? How do we
Right.
describe that experience? The Glee Project was a reality competition show where 12, at least in the first season, there were 12 competitors, contestants, um, from all over. And every single week there would be a theme, so like theatricality or believability, or something like that.
Sure.
And which is triggering. And then there would be a homework assignment, which was like we'd sing "Lean on Me" in the classroom, and then a mentor would come in and listen, and then choose a winner, and then they'd have
Sure.
advantage in the music video, and there'd be a music video of another song, and it had to show off how much we'd internalized the theme of the week. And then if you were in the bottom three, you would sing for your life,
Yeah.
last chance performance in front of Ryan Murphy and all of your mentors. And stressful. I'm literally having the shakes
Oh,
thinking
I'm
about
so
it.
sorry.
Oh, no, 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 no. It was so impactful. It was such an impactful experience. I learned so much about my group skills. I learned so much about uh, character flaws that I had. And then it was nationally aired, and then everybody learned about those flaws, and everybody got to see everyone's breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah.
And that was a big learning experience. That was a really big learning experience. And then I was in the final four. It was supposed to be a final three, and then all four of the final contestants got to be in the finale. And I was a runner up with Alex Newell. We were both runners up, and then Damien McGinty and Samuel Larson. And Damien and Sam won as a pair, and then Alex and I were runners up, and so that meant I got 2 episodes with a possibility of extension,
Sure.
and they did not. But I then filmed the first episode of the third season, and then I think it was the 8th or 10th episode of the third season. So that's how that came about. And then and that, boy, oh boy, what a roller coaster of an experience. Um and I won't speak for anyone else that had that experience in the first or second season, but I won't lie and say that it didn't somewhat um blanket my self esteem. I think it would be self-confidence, self-esteem, heavily. It
Sure.
was like a weird weighted blanket of self-doubt after that, because I think not from well, I think the filming experience had its own touch on me, and then having going from being completely unknown to national and global recognition overnight, and then people hating you because everybody, you could be the juiciest peach ever, and people are like, I hate peaches. And a lot of people don't like peaches, turns out. And so that was an interesting experience. And then Glee in and of itself was a really intricate machine. You would, you weren't just filming a TV show. It was, when this person's filming this scene, the other person that's not in that scene is going to be at the recording studio recording, and then everybody else that's not in those scenes is going to be rehearsing for the dance number that those aren't in, and then sometimes they're all in the same, and it's a lot.
It's a factory.
It's a
Yeah.
lot. And that show was extremely young. There was a lot. It was a bunch of young people, again, thrust into the spotlight out of nowhere. It was a immediate hit. Rabid. They were going on tour.
Yeah.
They were doing, I mean, they were global superstars overnight. And this was season 3. So specific patterns had set in, I believe. And I was only there for I think 4 days
Mhm.
in all of it, maybe 5 with fittings and rehearsals and
Sure.
stuff. But you really felt the youth of that kind of like young, something to prove, very excited energy. And some of it was great and some of it wasn't, as it is with any job.
Absolutely.
And I get asked all the time about specific people, and I get asked all the time about specific experiences, and everybody already knows the answer, so I don't know why they're asking me. I was on 2 episodes. I don't know anything.
Sure.
But I'm like, you know what the answers are. But
Absolutely.
yeah, it was definitely like, and everything had to get done so fast. Like the amount of workload for one episode of Glee is unlike it's a musical. Every episode is a musical,
Yep.
and some of the songs get recorded weeks in advance. I mean, the amount of overtime that those people must have worked is absolutely out of
Sure.
this world. And then, yeah, and then I remember going on and filming like a sweet little Lifetime show called Drop Dead Diva, and the energy was like chill
Yeah.
because nobody. It was a completely different like everybody. We were in Georgia. It was really quiet, and then I did Grey's Anatomy, and it was the chillest because
Really?
everybody had been there for 10 seasons and they were older and they were in their mid 30s, late 20s and older. They didn't have anything to prove.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, welcome to work, we're so happy to have you. Hi, I'm Ellen Pompeo, I'm Patrick Dempsey, cool, 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 like
Yeah.
super chill. And just a completely different experience. And then when I filmed Recovery Road, we had an amazing, young people and, the older generation coming together, and it was just the most chill experience. And then I've had experiences where I'm like, everyone's yelling. What's going on?
Yeah.
Because that's just the nature. You get a bunch of people and with different personalities in a room, and it becomes like a pressure cooker. And that's probably why you feel stressed when you watch Glee, because it was stressful getting that show made.
So I guess to piggyback, other big star vehicles. So you had Glee. You're the current Elphaba. You know what I mean?
Oh my Lord. What?
Like, and I
It's
will never
so bonkers.
forget. I started tearing up reading a caption that you had posted, and it was the photo of you with it. I believe it was Sam who played Fiyero, and you're just looking at your hands. Just this idea of you, because you had mentioned how when you get there, they kind of slap you in the green makeup, and then they immediately do the press shots with Joan Marcus, I believe. Correct? Is it still
Yeah.
Joan?
Oh, the legend
The
herself. Yeah.
legend.
Oh my
And
God. Tiny little white haired Joan Marcus. A genius.
I know. And then you
She's
talked
like in
about,
there, like on top of huge ladders, and you're like, don't fall.
well, how does the
It's
Defying Gravity press
wild.
shot work? Is that a green screen, or do they put you in the lift?
I'm actually not sure. I think they put you in the lift because I didn't have a Defying Gravity shot. We just
No.
did like second act, like
The
beauty
Wizard Chamber
shots of
one,
like
and
for the poster outside,
sure.
and like a press release of like her with the broom, and uh, just truly one of the most like I don't even think I'll feel prettier on my wedding day. You know what I mean? Like I was like, I don't think it gets much better than like feeling so cool and
Yeah.
powerful. And then we did Fiero shots
Yeah.
and No Good Deed shots.
Mhm.
So just very, very like we're trying to get like the press shot and the poster shot. And then because Sam, my Fiero, Sam Gravitt, was going in at the same time as me, he'd had 2 weeks because he'd been on the tour for a little while. They were having his Broadway press shots, his official shots done. So we got to do them together,
Yeah.
which was really amazing. And he got ready in like 10 minutes.
Right. It's like a
It
little
took
hair
me like
gel
an
and
hour. Yeah. He was like ready and they were like, do we have Lindsay? Where is she? I was like, I'm fine. I'm coming. But it was yeah, that was a really amazing day. But for Defying Gravity, I'm not sure. I think they put you in the lift
yeah.
and then I think they either take you up and she's on a ladder on the stage, or you're just like, I don't know. I
I
can't
know.
answer. I don't think I know the answer, but
That's neat.
yeah, I can't wait. I would love to have a Defying Gravity shot. I think they're so cool.
I always love with this podcast trying to find, more of the humanizing things that people might not normally put together before you go on. And can I ask, like, how nervous were you training? Like, were there ever moments of like, can I do this? And of can I do this show? And were you like, do you get nervous nightly before you would go on in Wicked? I guess.
Yeah, I think there I had a juxtaposition of having no time to think about anything else but getting it done, especially in rehearsal, because you have 4 weeks, and it's an experience unlike anything. I don't even have a word for it. It was so otherworldly to me because I'd never been the only one rehearsing before. Um, and there would be really amazing little pockets of getting to rehearse with people because understudies, were having like a slight little rehearsal or put in,
Sure.
and they'd be like, "Hey, you're ready with act 1. You can go do act 1 with them and run the show and feel how it's going, and we can see where you're at." Um, but I think for a while, during rehearsals, I really just I keep saying, like, I had my head in a bowl of green sand like an ostrich. I was just like, Elphaba all the time, going to bed, waking up and steaming and looking through my line cards,
Yeah.
and just trying to be as prepared as possible because I knew that I was coming into a world that I was brand new to, and I've been working, on multiple things before Broadway, but Elphaba is like my first real Broadway audition. So I knew that I was coming in green, and I lol, but I knew that I was coming in like a greenhorn, and I knew that I had a lot to learn, because they're big shoes to fill. And that pressure comes from all angles. And I don't think it's a pressure that's always meant to be applied, but like, how do you not when it's so iconic? Um and and the fans have a very specific desire with
Yes,
their
they do.
alphabas, and then at the end of the day, anytime I would feel that feeling, am I gonna can I do this? Can I do this? It was never like, am I good enough, or um I don't belong here. And I definitely had little whispers of those feelings, but it was, am I going to be able to do this? Like, actually do it, to be able to do it and then sustain it for months. Like, am I ready? Am I going to be physically, do I have the strength within me to do it? And the answer was yes, I did. And it's a strength that you acquire through it. You don't realize how strong you are until you're doing that. And yeah, and I definitely think, in those moments I'd be like, I would have to remind myself, they didn't want you here, they wouldn't have cast you. They didn't want you here, they wouldn't have. You think that they're making mistakes casting the show? Do you think
No.
that they're going, ooh, our 17 years of experience
Right? And
of
casting
putting
Wicked.
of putting women into this part? And on top of it, it doesn't matter what anybody says about you being in the role, and nobody really did. I don't think I heard one people be like, she's a terrible alpha. Like, I don't think I heard one thing, and if it does, who cares?
Bingo.
It doesn't change the fact that my signature is on a piece of paper that requires me to do the job. It doesn't take that away. um and at the end of the day, it really only matters how I feel when I do it. And if I feel good, then great. That being said, I had to change the way I talk to myself. I had to change the internal
Uh-huh.
dialogue. And because it's when you're tired and you're at your wits' end and all of your devices are at a low at the end of a show, it's really, you're hungry. You're, are you hungry? Are you angry? Are you lonely? Are you tired? You're all those things. So halt, eat a sandwich, take a shower, call somebody that you love, and go to bed,
Yeah.
and take care of yourself, because, like, I don't know about you, but when I am vulnerable, my brain's like, time to mess with her. It's time to
Mine's
treat her like
vicious.
crap.
And you said it, like when we're tired, like, and so recently, since the podcast started, it's like blown up. Like it's crazy. Like I remember years ago
Totally.
where I was maybe doing like one or two readings a month, like years and years ago, and like now it's like every like I now I'm really proud of the fact that I take one day off in between. So
Mm-hmm.
and I'll do a couple a day in between, but you know, and I think I had to remind myself, like, you deserve a break as well. You know, this is our work doesn't define us. Like, yes, I am a medium, but that is
Yes.
at the end of the day, that's not what makes, like, that's
All
one
that you
small
do.
part of me. It's the same as like our our sexuality, our gender. It's one small part of who we
Our
are.
weight, our body, whatever it
Bingo.
is, it
Because
does
when
not
I'm
define who
tired,
we
it's
are.
ugly. It's very much
Yeah.
like, oh, you missed that one person today that they were initially hoping to contact, or you said that, it was this instead of this, and then your brain starts playing tricks on you. Oh gosh, I'm booked up for the rest of the next 2 months. I'm like, am I going to let these people down? And I always say it comes from a place of like love. Like I care
Yeah.
so much about what I do that I never want to let somebody down because I know it. I
Yeah.
feel it when they come into the room that they're not putting the stakes, they're not making them high, but I know they're like somebody really wants to talk with this person or this person. And I always say just go in with an open mind and an open heart because you will get the messages that you need, not necessarily what you want to hear. There's a real freedom in all of a sudden just going, okay,
Uh-huh.
I'm human. I did the best job that I could today. And because one thing that I feel the pressure on is that when you watch TV shows like Long Island Medium, Tyler Henry, and while they're
Mm-hmm.
incredible, you never see them getting a name wrong. You never see them getting a gender
The
wrong,
edit, of
or
course.
it's the edit. You don't realize that. I think that one 20-minute segment that you see if somebody's reading, or in Long Island, because they're shorter, somebody's 7-minute segment was probably like 2 hours to film.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and you,
Absolutely.
so you start putting yourself up to these unrealistic expectations of what you see. And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
nope, I'm stepping back
Mm-hmm.
and go ahead. I'm
Yes.
sorry. I didn't mean
I
to.
ha- oh no, I'm just empathizing and fully like locked in.
And I
Like,
wish
yep.
people were more
Yep.
vocal about this. I wish performers were more vocal about it with each other. I wish mediums were more vocal about. And whenever I share these stories, I'm not trying to say like I don't do a good job. I'm really proud of the
Oh, you
work
do a
that I
great job.
thank
Yeah.
you. Like and I work hard, but I share it so that if there is somebody watching this podcast or listening who's trying to develop their spirituality or their ability as a medium, it's like we all have off days. And there is no rhyme or reason. Sometimes our body is just going, you're human, you need to rest today.
Yes.
And there's no shame in it because I feel like if we're just trying to set ourselves up for perfection all the time, it's such a dangerous thing to do. And
I agree 1,000%. And I think you're touching on something that's really important in this culture of filter and this culture of edit, photos, videos, reality television. God, we're obsessed.
do you mind if we talk about your reading? Because I read you about
Yes.
just a little under a month ago. So is there anything that you feel comfortable sharing from, I guess, from our reading from our time together?
Yes. Um, man. Mm. Now I'm thinking about all of it. Um, oh God. Well, I'm someone who's, I don't want to say lucky, but just the way that my life has unfolded thus far, I've not experienced a lot of loss of through death. My highest and best, like the term that you use, was my papa, my grandfather, Bill Pierce, William Houston, and I knew he was going to come through because I feel him always. And he's not been gone long. I think it's been 4 years, which feels like so long.
Wow.
But he came through and just like me, talkie, man. He
He
just was
stayed the
so
entire
excited.
time.
Yeah, he stayed. He was hanging
The
out
entire
in the
time.
back, like at any minute someone's gonna stop talking. I'm gonna come right through and again. And he's a storyteller like I am. So um yeah, and just funny, so funny, and so he was just so good. He was so good. And you got me crying because there were things that you knew that I've never told anybody about my debut. I felt him
Oh
there with me the
yeah.
whole time, and you knew that he'd been there with me. And I didn't tell anybody about it. I didn't tell anybody that I looked down at my hand before that first entrance and closed my hand and said, "We're doing this together," with a suitcase in one hand and me holding like holding my ethereal
Grandfather.
grandfather's hand in the other one. And I was like, you're gonna have to come do this with me, because that was the dream, was that he would be able to see me one day. And it had been quite some time since, um before his death, since he was able to physically, because I was in
Sure.
Southern California, he was in Northern, and It's very difficult to travel that long when you're older, um and I felt him there. I felt him there with me the whole time. And you said something about that, and I was like, I was gone. I was like, I know it did. I'm so glad. I felt so validated. Because sometimes when, when I'm not a medium, it um can feel like you're uh putting on airs, about like, or it can be, I think there's a lot of things of like, everything is a sign.
Yeah.
No,
And
it's
it's
the full
not.
moon, everything, it's God, or it's my, everything, something falls down and you're like, oh, retrograde, and then you're like, no.
Yeah.
But I think that that goes to show how starved, or and maybe starved is an insensitive word, but how hungry we all are for things to make sense and for things to come together. And um we're really hungry for like the sinews to come together. And just to hear you say, I just want you to know he was there, and the way in which you described it, because of course anybody could say he was there with you, but the way in which you described him being there, and the words that I exchanged with him, and the words that I knew that he was saying back to me, nobody would have known.
When the clock doors open because of the rope and they're being pulled, it makes a very
Mhm.
specific noise, and you can hear
Noise.
it from the audience. And I remember
It goes.
when I read,
Yeah.
bingo. And when I read you, I
Mm.
have goosebumps now. I heard it,
I
and
know, me too.
I saw you looking down at your feet. And I remember, and then I shared with you that language that he had expressed about. And I first thought he was just talking about like the show, because you have to
Yeah.
be really careful that you're not just glossing over the message. Like you have to like microscope it in like a second. And I'm like,
Mhm.
he's showing me this moment. And I'm like, oh wait,
Mhm.
that's her first moment that she comes out. And
Yeah.
it's just a cool moment that he talked about.
Yeah. And the phrase "we did it" was something that I said over and over and over again. And I got to the theater early, and I had I because I'm one of those people that likes to be there early, but especially on a debut. And I sat there and I talked to him. I was like, "Hey, I don't know if you're there, but I it's big night, and if you could be there with me, it would mean the world, because I don't know if I can do it without you." That man used to live with us, so he heard me singing Wicked at a young age. And so it must have been a great thing for him too. He's like, that's what all those songs are about. That's what all those songs are about. Oh, she's green. I had no idea. So it's good to know that, like, he, in a way, he got to see the show. And I think he was
Absolutely.
on that stage the whole time. I think he was just like lurking on the side. I remember every second of it. And I think I just felt so present. And not to say that people who do black out, I mean, it's so much adrenaline. You're in a race
Sure.
car the whole time. It really is wild. It's an absolutely upheaving experience. And I remember every bloody second of it. And yeah, I'll absolutely never forget it for as long as I live. Yeah, just wild. And there's a very specific feeling that I get sometimes of my legs, like as if someone's just guiding me forward. Like when you put your hand on in the middle of someone's back, and you just gently, you're like, oh, you move
Yes.
them. I feel that constantly. I feel that all the time. Um and I don't know where it comes from, but I felt it that night when I had that I felt him go like, "Whew, out you go." And I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to go whether I want to or not. And I really did feel it. And I as someone who is adopted, and someone who is always looking for a sense of community, which I'm so grateful I've found in the community of theater, which is, I think, why I love it more than any other medium I've ever performed under. Just to know that someone stuck around even after the fact, was really validating and very calming, to hear you basically confirm what I had felt that day, which was almost a year ago. On the 25th of this month, it will be a full year since that happened, which makes me very sad.
I know.
And also just very reflective. But yeah, it was extremely heartwarming and validating. And I I cried so much before and or during and after that reading. And I, when you miss someone so much, I didn't get to say bye to him, so it was nice to talk to him and kind of close that because I wasn't there when he died, and I wasn't there for the funeral because I was working on a cruise ship in the
Yeah,
Caribbean. There was no way for me to go home. So what a gift you gave me to be able to
thank
have
you.
the time with him that both of us wanted. Because he
Sometimes
came
that's
in hot. The minute you entered, he was like, "Hi, I'm here."
Well, that's
Like,
another thing that I wanted to mention because, if you are somebody listening that is more into the intuitive development side, what you might
yeah,
find as a medium is if I also describe things in terms of intensity. And so when I
mhm,
kept hearing grandfather, if it's somebody that's going to come in and speak but maybe not hold up the entire reading, it'll just be like dad, grandfather. This was like, imagine like a weight being pushed on you and it was like grandfather, 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 and I'm like, so
yep,
if you're somebody
yep,
new to developing your ability, if you hear intensity from me, that means there might not be that many other folks that are going to come through. They haven't lost a lot of people, but this person is going to speak for a good chunk of it because they
yes.
are the one that has really been called on for like the week leading up to the reading.
You also have a really great way of preparing, because not everybody knows, or has those outside source kind of feelings often. Everyone's individual experience is so specific to them. Um and their environment and the way that they've grown, et cetera, et cetera. And I already felt like I knew you because I'd watched the interview with Jenny, and you'd already reached out to me, and we were scheduling time together, and then you sent a video and you said, "This is how you're going to prep."
Yes,
And I
homework.
was like, "Oh, of course. Have I already been doing that?" I was like, because I kind of talk to him all the time. And then I just went on a walk the day before and said, I'm going to meet with someone tomorrow. I'm going to meet with a medium. And if you would like to come, um, say anything, I would be so happy to see you. I'd be so happy to hear from you. And I think he was like, "Yeah, I know.
Right. He's like,
Like,
I've been
I've already
here.
found him. He's in Buffalo, New York. I'm sure I'm already in bed. Like, I've got it." It was, and he was like that, where he's like, "Don't worry about it. I'm already on it."
He was on it.
I was like, he's gonna wake him up. I know he's gonna be like, "Hi, ding, 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 wake up.
Oh,
It's time."
they do that sometimes. And like
Yeah.
sometimes if it's a morning where I let out the dogs because our Dalmatian gets up quite early, they will start. And I'm like, nope. I'm like,
I know.
but I
I
do have
know.
to mention too, sometimes things work in real time. And what I mean by that
Mm.
is sometimes it doesn't happen often, but sometimes something will currently be happening that is out of sight that I can't see, but it's happening while I'm talking with the client. And then I'm told to talk about it. And I'm like, oh, is this a symbol for something? And can we talk about literally, I didn't realize it was right behind you, right in front of you.
Yeah,
We have to talk about it. Go ahead.
we've got a raven. So my fiance, his I hesitate to use the word spirit animal because I think that has been, here I go again, but here I am being Elphaba, I guess. But truly, that's my fiance is indigenous. And I think that the term like spirit totem or spirit animal has been slightly, by slightly I mean greatly, appropriated from native culture and First Peoples culture. So I don't know what the correct term is, but I do believe that there are guides that make themselves known in a specific shape, and I think it's applicable. I know in my Irish lineage, that Druidism, there's a lot of animal connection and there's a lot of earth connection and connection to beings.
Yes.
That there is a life within everything that is to be respected, and uh, yeah, if not slightly worshipped. And that ravens have always been around, and crows have always been something that um, have just kind of always followed me in my life. And I know for my brother, it's a snowy owl. He's always seen one. He's always seen a big white owl around, and he's like, "I don't know what that is, but I'm thankful for it." And my
Sure.
mom is buzzards. It's always, but what is this like aviation family that we have, I guess, something about flying. And for me, it's crows. And in our reading, you were like, I'm getting the sense that there's something about crows. There's something, there's crows or ravens as a sign of protection. So when you see them, feel comforted, and I do believe that there's not everything is a sign. But as you were saying that, I was looking out this window and there's a tree that we either get mourning doves in or crows or the sparrows. And there was a crow literally sitting on a branch like, hey. I was like, you're never going to believe this. And we kept talking and I said, oh, by the way, and I moved out of the way and you were like, because I was sitting
Because
right
I
here
can't
and
see
you
it
were
right
like,
now. It's
you
not
can't see
visible.
it. And then all the lights were on and you could see
Crazy.
it. And you were like, and it was just so very specific. And then I had I had a moment after our reading. I told you this story before, but I was driving with my fiance in the car and I was behind the driver's seat and I almost got hit. I had checked for my blind spot and I moved over and a car had like, my blinker was on, but a car must have been like, not today to me, and zoomed up and nearly hit me. And I kind of jerked, which is not what you're supposed to do. I very, very scared and nervously jerked out of the way, saw something flash across my windshield, and I had protectively put an arm over my fiance as if like that was gonna save us from devastation. I do that all the time. It's like the aunt mom hand, and I pulled off the freeway and he said, honey, I'm so sorry, that scared me. And Stephen chuckled to himself and I was like, are you laughing at me? Insecure, are you laughing at me? And he was like, no. Right when that happened, right when you jerked out of the way, a crow flew across the car. And he was like, and you just told me, and it just made me smile because it just shows me something's looking out,
Yeah.
and anything that reminds me, whether there is connection through the cosmos like that or not, any reminder that you, at any part of your day, you can give it up to the higher thing. Like at any part of the day, you can say, you know what, I'm going to trust. I'm going to
Bingo.
trust and I'm going to have faith and I'm going to believe that something that I'm going to be okay. And granted, you can't just go like walking into fire being like, I'm going to be fine.
Yeah.
Like, no, be a conscientious human being. But yeah, I was like, thanks. In that moment, I was like, thank you, because I would have been really bad. And right when we started this podcast, there was a crow sitting outside, like, hey,
And I
just
love
checking
how
in.
you said it so beautifully too, because I mean, the term spirit animal has really been bastardized because I
Yeah.
mean, now you can take Facebook quizzes and find out what your spirit animal is. And it is really,
Yeah.
to native culture, it's something that's so sacred and beautiful. And like there are the
Yeah.
totems and, um, you know, I always say everyone has a spirit animal. We do not get to choose. It chooses us. And, many times, um, you know, one of the ways I word it is, if you're trying to figure out what your spirit animal is, don't take a Facebook quiz.
Yeah.
You can meditate on it. You can even ask yourself, have I always been drawn to a particular animal that for some odd reason, like it clicks, it connects with me? Do I think about this animal sometimes for no reason? Doesn't necessarily mean you might be connecting at that moment correctly, but
Mm,
for me, it was always a crocodile, and I looked it up
mm,
years ago. And each spirit animal has its own distinct characteristics that we are meant to learn from. And for the crocodile, one of the things is that we can't be docile at all the time, that we have to eventually stand up for ourselves and take action. And that is something that I struggle with as just a human every day, of where do I draw the line in being, kind to others and
yeah.
letting things roll off my back versus when is it my time to go, okay, I'm going to speak up here. So when I sat with you for the reading, I remember I wrote down Lindsay Banana and I'm like, what the F does this mean? And then you couldn't figure it out. I couldn't. And then finally I started hearing the name game and I was like, da, 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 da. And I was like, Lindsay Banana. I was like, the name game. And I remember I
Mm.
cracked up watching you. I rewound. You literally flew off your chair and like ran toward.
Because out of nowhere, I remembered.
It's those things that we forget, I think, that make the moments so
Hmm.
much more poignant, because we forget. Like there's moments where I meditate and my loved ones will give me a memory that I had long forgotten. I go, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
To give the listener an idea, he'd been Lindsay Banana, like Hannah Banana. And I was like, well, I had a friend named Hannah who was on Glee Project with me, and we lived together, and he loved Hannah. Papa loved Hannah, and he'd always be like, "How's your friend with the red hair? How's she doing?" So it could have been attached to that as well. But you were like, "Oh, it's like Lindsay Binsey, Bo Binsey, Banana Fana, Fo Finsey, that game, that me, my, Mo Minzy, Lindsay, Connor, Bo Bonner, Banana
Uh-huh.
Fana, Fo Fonner, all of it, Papa, Po Papa, Banana Fana, Fo Fappa." Like it was really, that was a name game. And right at the end of our reading, it was like he was like, "Remember." And I literally was like, "Oh my God." Because that's an old word game. It's an
Yeah.
old name game. And it's been going on forever. And I was like, "Oh my God." He used to be so, he thought he was so funny and clever because he'd see how many different ways he could make the names come out.
And then he
And I
tied
talked to
up.
my mom about that, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that."
If you were stuck as a ghost in one theater and could only watch the same musical over and over, what would you pick?
I'm going to say, oh God. I feel like it's a cop out, but I would absolutely love to be stuck in the Majestic and see Phantom.
Phantom.
I think it's
Phantom.
an amazing. I think there's a lot of really amazing energy surrounding that show, and it's been around for forever. It's that, or like you go to the West End and see like Les Mis that's
Yeah.
been running for ever and ever and ever. But
Phantom's a
yeah,
good
I
choice.
think Phantom. I think, and I love that theater.
I
I
do too.
love that
There's
theater.
some cool stuff that goes on there. So,
Yeah.
um, any character you've played that you think could benefit from a medium?
Lady Macbeth.
She could
She
benefit from
needs
just like a
help.
moral. She needs help. She needs a moral
Yeah, Lady
compass.
Macbeth.
Great.
Yeah.
If you could go back in time and originate a Broadway role that was like a star-making turn for somebody now who's like iconic, what role would you pick?
Hmm. Oh my God. I don't know if it was a star-making role, but I would love to have originated the witch in Into the Woods. I love that role, the witch or the baker's wife. I don't know if they were star-making, but what an experience to be in that original cast with the incredible ins and outs of the storyline and the music and its Sondheim and
Star
the
solidifying
costumes.
is a good word.
Star
Star
solidifying,
solidifying because we're
yeah.
like, because I will never think of anyone other than Bernadette Peters and Joanna Gleason. So
Of
that's a good
course.
choice.
And I think like that, or like Sunday in the Park with George.
I was
Oh
just
my
watching this old video of Bernadette Peters at the stage door on YouTube. It came up as recommended, and just how stage dooring has changed. Like now it's
yeah.
desperation and like people are sweating and crying, and
Yeah,
literally it was
crying.
just like four adults outside the theater, and Bernadette like came out and like applauded them. She was like, and like just walked away.
Oh, thank you so much.
And
Yeah,
then
I
Mandy,
know.
Mandy Patinkin just like waved and walked away. Like
Oh my
just
God. Mandy Patinkin, my
Patinkin,
forever
excuse me,
crush.
not Patinkin.
Oh my God. Oh, I didn't
Thank
even
you.
know you'd said it.
We'll
You'd said
bleep
it.
that out.
I will. Mandy Patinkin. I think the reason why I
You're
would want to
correct.
have originated Dot in Sunday in the Park with George is to simply have worked with Mandy Patinkin. I
Could you
think that he's
imagine?
just the most incredible vocalist. Oh, or I would have, I'm going to give a third answer because I'm indecisive. I would have loved to um, originate Mary in The Secret Garden. God, I love that show.
Secret Garden
I
comes up very often on this podcast. People talk about that show all the time. So
because it's a perfect show.
it
I'm
is.
sorry. It's perfect. It's beautiful. There will never be a song like Race You to the Top of the Morning or When a Thing is Wick.
The whole show.
Oh, it's so good. Oh, it's so
That
good.
was a good
But yeah,
final choice. And then
obsessed.
finally, like 500 years from now, when we're all not here, how would you want somebody to look back and remember you?
Um, oh God, this is the question that like always gives me like existential stress.
Oh, no.
It's um, oh God, I don't think I know. I wonder. I would just hope that they would look through the catalog of my life, because there's so much of my life that I am, touch wood, hopeful to continue living. I would hope that they would, maybe it's a cop out. I don't know if it's a cop out answer, but I hope that they would be able to see what compassion can achieve. Um, a willingness to always be a student.
Mhm.
And uh, I'm so uncomfortable being like, are these my qualities, my good qualities? But what humility and like, and looking in on oneself can do for a life, because my life has exponentially changed in the last 3 or 4 years, because of the work. So I think if they could look back and see the work, um, I would be very proud of that.
Beautiful. Well, I want to thank you so much for being my guest today, for being so gracious with your time, with your energy. And I will put up your handle. I will put up some of my favorite Lindsay Heather Pearce clips. And I will race to the Gershwin when we are
Oh
back,
my god.
because I cannot wait to scream and cheer you on. And when that gate opens,
Oh my
I
god.
will be that fan that always starts the applause like the minute it opens just to hype up the crowd. I will be
Oh my
your
god.
hype. I can't wait. Me and Bill
I
will be
can't
there
wait.
screaming and just cheering you on. And
I also can't wait to physically meet you,
I can't wait. I
because I
cannot
feel like
wait.
we were meant to know each other.
Yes, we were. And
Yeah.
so thank you again. And I hope you're well. And mwah, I
Likewise.
will talk to you soon.
Oh my god. I am just obsessed. Thank you.
It's a mutual feeling. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I'll
You're
see
like
you
a twin
soon.
flame spirit. Yeah. I'll see you soon.
Bye bye.
Bye.